Hi everyone, it's Miss Chelsea with the Mount Holly Library, and it is time for another teen book talk. So today's theme is going to be new books, and these are all new YA books that have come out within this past year or have been republished within the past year. So I have about seven, and we're going to go in order from their rating on Goodreads.com. So we're going to start with the lowest rating and move on up, and as I get to the books, they'll pop up on the screen, their book cover, and their Twitter handle. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first book I have is called Be Not Far From Me by Mindy McGinnis. It was published in March of this year, and it has a rating of 3.89 out of 5 on Goodreads. So this story features a female character named Ashley, who against all odds tries to survive the wilderness, and she has to fight for her life. So she goes hiking in the mountains with some friends. They're going to plan a camping trip for one night, and as the night progresses, she catches her boyfriend with another girl, and in this rage, she runs off into the woods in the middle of the night, and she falls down a ravine and gets badly injured. She's very familiar with these woods. She hikes all the time. So when she wakes up in the morning, she realizes that she's alone. She's very far off the trail, and she's lost. So, with nothing but the clothes on her back, she has to try to figure out how to survive, but she also notices there's a red streak of infection creeping up her leg. So, this story is basically just her adventure in these woods and her experience of trying to survive and be found and get back to, her friends, her family, and all that. So, it is a really good story. I will say it does contain a lot of gory details, but it was very interesting and it was very suspenseful. So the next book we have is The Year After You by Nina DePass. It was published in February of 2019, but it was republished in this past year, and its rating was 4.5 out of, excuse me, 4.05 out of 5 on Goodreads. And in this story is about grief and loss and just acceptance of grief. So one girl has been struggling with letting go of the past and accepting the present. So on New Year's Eve, there was a very tragic accident Kara and her friend were in. Kara survives, but her friend G does not. 9 months later, she's still struggling. She's consumed by guilt and by grief. And her mom, who hopes to give her a fresh start, sends her to Switzerland to a boarding school where she meets two new friends named Ren and Hector, who try to help her get through this process. And as she gets closer to Hector, she starts worrying that she's going to start forgetting about G. And if she can let go and admit what she did that night, what part she played, and what happened that night with G, she's unsure if she could get past all of that. So it is a book that is very centered towards if you've lost someone or if you're grieving about something. This is an interesting read. So next we have When You Were Everything by Ashley Woodfolk. This was published in March of this year. It has a rating of 4.19 out of 5 on Goodreads. So there's a quote that starts off the book is you can't rewrite the past, but you can always choose to start again. So this is very detailed about friendship. So there's friends of Cleo and Layla, or excuse me, Cleo and Layla, whose friendship has just ended. It's imploded. And after about a month, Cleo realizes that they're never going to be friends again. So she tries to erase all of her memories of Layla and try to move on from that. And she makes new friends and she develops a crush on another classmate. But her and Layla's past start to come back to haunt them. And it just delivers a really emotional story about the beauty of self forgiveness and new beginnings and courage. All right, so next we have The Degenerates by J. Albert Mann. Was published March of this year and has a rating of 4.29 out of 5 on Goodreads. So this is a historical novel that follows about four young girls, and it sets in about early 20th century, and their lives intersect when they're all locked up together in an institution that locks up the poor, the disabled, the marginalized, and they institutionalize them for life. So London, Maxine, and Rose are all residents of the Massachusetts School for the Feeble-Minded, which is not a very happy place. The character Maxine does everything she can to protect her younger sister Rose from the vicious attendants and the older bullies at the school. The doctors have diagnosed them all as idiots and morons, and that's just how they're treated. Alice, who is one of Maxine's best friends, was dropped off there when she was younger by her brother because he couldn't see himself supporting a sister with a club foot. And London, who is the newest person that is staying at the school, she was dragged there from one of the best foster situations she's ever been in. So these four girls form a very close bond, and they come up with a plan to try to change their fate, no matter what the cost is. I enjoyed really reading this book. I'm not a huge historical fiction fan, but this one I'm very glad that I got to read. All right, next we have The Lightness of Hand by Jeff Garvin, and this was published in April of this year. It has a rating of 4.31 out of 5 on Goodreads. So this book talks a lot about what it's like to be bipolar, and which I haven't seen very much in teen books. And it does have parts throughout on self harm and suicide, which can be common with different types of bipolar. I did find it to be eye opening though, and I did really enjoy reading it. So it's about Ellie Dante, who is desperate for something in her life to go right. Her father is this, or he used to be a famous magician. He tried to do a magic trick on stage and it failed really badly. So his career ended at that point. So now Ellie lives with her dad in a really beat up RV, and they travel all over the country to do like, they perform at birthday parties and different locations just to do small little gigs and stuff like that. But when those little small performances dry up, their insurance lapses, which leaves Dante without medication for her bipolar. Um, and her dad doesn't have medication for his heart condition. So Ellie is forced to battle all of the side effects of being bipolar without her medication. So one day Ellie gets this call from a famous magic duo who want to offer them a lot of money to have her dad come out and retry that big performance that he failed so long ago and when he was starting his career. But she know that her dad won't accept the offer. So, with her friend's help, she tricks her dad into traveling across the country um, and try to stage his comeback. But when her lie is exposed, she has to confront her illness and her choices head on in order to save her father and herself. Again, this is not a book that I've seen a lot of talk about bipolar, especially within teenagers. So I think it's a very interesting read. I was apprehensive at first. I didn't want it to be misrepresented in any way, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. All right, next we have They Went Left, and this is by Monica Hesse. It was published of April of this year and has a rating of 4.34 out of 5 on Goodreads. So this book takes place in Germany in 1945 at the end of World War II. It follows 18-year-old Sophia Letterman on her journey to find her brother. So 3 years ago, her and her younger brother were the only members to be sent right away from the gas chambers of Auschwitz. Everyone else went left. Sophia promised her brother, who was named Abak, that she would find him when this was over, and they have a cute little saying, A back to Sophia, which is A to Z. So her journey takes her through Poland and Germany, and into like a displaced persons camp where everyone that she meets is trying to piece together a future from a very painful past. But the deeper Sophia digs, the more impossible her search seems. So how can she find one boy in a sea of just missing people? So, in the rubble of a broken continent, Sophia must delve into a mystery whose answers could either help her or break her. So, it is, if you're into historical fiction, especially if you're into World War II books, this is a really good one to read. So, this last one is called We Are Not From Here. And of all the seven that we've done, I think this one's going to be my favorite. And this is by Jenny Torres Sanchez. It was published in May of this year, and it has a rating of 4.58 out of 5 on Goodreads. So, this novel is a lot about desperation and escape and survival as teens try to survive crossing the US Mexico border. So, three teens have each other, but they don't have any illusions about the time they've grown up in and just the dangers that they've been around. And even though they have love of family, there are threats that are lurking around every corner. And when these threats become too real, they know that they have no choice but to run from their town, from their home, from their family. So, with nothing but the bags on their back and desperation drumming through their hearts, they know that there is no turning back, despite the unknown that awaits them, and the darkness that seems to follow them wherever they go. In this powerful story, inspired by events, the plight of migrants from the U.S. southern border is brought to painful and vivid life. It's an epic journey of just danger resilience, determination, heartache, hope. Again, it's very diverse. It's one of my favorite. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's all we have for today. Check back in next month for next month's Teen Book Talk. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all at least heard one book that you're really wanting to check out. And we will see you again next time. Bye.